Hi guys, it's Ray here from Man City Fan TV, and today I'm joined by Harry Siddall. And Harry, why don't you just tell the guys to start off with a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, well, my name's Harry. I'm a massive Manchester City fan. You might have actually seen me once before on a little podcast we did with a few others earlier on in the season. But I'm an aspiring sports journalist. Absolutely love Man City. I'm a season ticket holder with my granddad in the East Stand. And yeah, I'm trying to be positive right now.
Well, that's actually my first note, because I was going to tell everybody that Harry is normally a very, very, very positive Manchester City fan. Okay, and so I've seen a few tweets going around today, and there's a lot of City fans who are ready to slit their own wrists or slit some of the players' wrists or have a pop at Pep or whatever. So I wanted to just to make sure, Harry, that you're feeling all right. So I want to ask, how are you feeling today, mate?
Yeah, I've calmed down a bit. I don't normally get angry. I sound like a mum. I'm more disappointed at the players than angry when we lose, because I know that we can play much better. I think the problem is now with City fans, because we've been so good for the past couple of years, that when we lose, it hits us a bit harder. Especially with the players we've got. But no, like when the final whistle went last night, I don't know how I felt. It just felt like a sucker punch. And I remember a similar time last season when we were ahead of Manchester United. They went to St James's Park and lost 1-0. I think it was Matt Ritchie again who scored. Yeah. And it extended our lead at the top. And that felt like, to me at that time, that we should go on and win this now. And it just felt like that last night. It's because it's not the first. It's not like an anomaly like Wigan was last season. The difference is we've dropped now 11 points against sides that are not in the top 6, whereas Liverpool have dropped none, and that is the difference.
Yeah, I mean, talking a little bit about last night, do you think it was a collective failure, a failure of the system, a failure of the team, or just some very good players who were playing poorly individually?
I think it's a combination of what you're all saying. I think the team itself, I didn't have any issues with. Of course, with Benjamin Mendy in there, it's a full strength team, and he's the only one who's been missing. When the team was announced, I was very happy with it. Sergio's got a brilliant record against Newcastle. That was maybe the only debate with Jesus in very good goal scoring form. But just some of the players last night were just not on it. I mean, David Silva, who's been absolutely flawless all season, just some of the passing. What was so good at our game is our interplay. It's the best thing about our game. Yeah. And even that last night, a few times, I mean, when there was overloads on a couple of sides, and the ball was just behind the man, or it was just overhit. And that's the difference between getting a ball into the box and getting a tap in, or it going out for a throw in or a corner. It's plays that you don't expect. You know what I mean? I thought Kevin De Bruyne had a really good first 45 minutes. He faded away as the game went on. But David Silva in particular, there's a couple of times where he could have slipped a ball in and the ball was either behind the player or a bit too hard. And that is the difference in these sort of games when it's tight, the defences are robust, and you just need that second goal just to settle it.
Yeah, I mean, what I find a bit unusual for me is last season, David Silva, he wasn't playing every week. He obviously had his personal issues to deal with as well. And it was sometimes he'd play a game, miss the next, play a game, miss the next, or whatever, however it worked out. This season, he played a lot of games, obviously, when Kevin was injured. And then recently, he's been missing games. Now, do you think he's not found his rhythm yet, or does he need a couple of games to get that rhythm?
It's a tough question, because with David Silva, sometimes there's a few games this season where we've needed him, and there's been games where we've started with Bernardo and Gundogan, and he's come on and he's created that opportunity to seal the game. And he only needs that split second, a player of David Silva's quality. But there is sometimes, and maybe it is a bit of age, and with him, that he just looks a bit off the pace. His quickness in passing is just a bit off. Maybe Bernardo Silva was a better option last night, but it's hard to say, because when the team was announced, I was happy with it.
Yeah.
Because players can have afford an off night, but it was just a shame that pretty much
altogether
every single player.
Well, we said for the last couple of months, ever since he started growing his hair back, he's not the same player. Because a bald David Silva, besides being beautiful, bald is beautiful, as you can see. But he was phenomenal at the start of the season, I felt. And it was like he was as good as ever, if not better. I mean, his weight of pass, that's something that's always amazing, his control. And and he knows when to pass it. And you see times last season especially where Leroy Sané would start making the run, and he'd expect the ball from a decent player. He'd get the ball from David Silva would hang on for a fraction of a second, and he'd give him a perfect ball nearly every time.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
you could see, Sané was he'd start to get frustrated that he wasn't getting the ball, and then suddenly he'd get an even better ball. And I think that was the difference between David Silva and a mere mortal good player. And this season, in the last few months, I don't think he's had enough games to get into his groove again. It's a difficult one. We have got so many great players as to who to pick. Bernardo was great at the start of the season as well. Now Kevin's back. You want Kevin to play.
Yeah. Well, the difference is, there's these patches last night. For the first goal, it's a beautiful volley through to Sterling to start the attack, and he has got that in his locker whenever he wants. But there's some of the times, a couple of times, the wingers, like you said about Sané, a couple of times with Danilo as well, he had to check his run just because it was a bit too slow. He got on the ball, and you could see Pep on the sideline was trying to rally him up. We'd scored within 25 seconds, and 2 minutes later, it panned to Pep on the sidelines, and he was shouting at him to quicken it up. And you can see as the game went on, he got more and more frustrated at him. And you can tell when he's the most frustrated, when he's just not there barking instructions anymore. He's just give up. He's just sat there.
I said something this morning, and no one pulled me up on it yet. I'm sure someone will. But I said it was like Pep was sulking, on the sidelines.
Yeah, he did look like it.
Very, very early on. When I'm not at the ground, I'll make some notes on a game, because obviously when you're watching a game live, you're all in the moment. Standing there with a notepad, you look a bit of an idiot. But at home, watching the game on the telly, I make some notes, and that's a common theme every time they went to Pep. He looked unhappy, he looked frustrated, and the longer the game went on, it was like the more he was like just sat back in his, slunk back in his chair, unhappy and with what was going on. In the early stages, he was there trying to rally them, trying to G them up, but they just, I don't know what, they just didn't seem to listen last night.
Yeah, it was after half time. I noticed it a bit more, and I think because he knows he can do it. This team, this pretty much starting 11 last season, bar Fabian Delph on the left, did it last season every single game. We barely dropped any points last season, so he knows he can do it. And you know what's quite interesting? I've been reading recently that Guillaume Balaguer book about Pep and his time at Barcelona, why he left, and he said by the end of his Pep and his reign, he just looked like he'd give up on them because he didn't look like they wanted to play.
Yeah.
He didn't look like he wanted to play his way. And maybe last night, he's obviously gone mental at him at half time, because that's what Pep Guardiola does. And then maybe he feels like that's all he can do. If they don't want to do it, there's not much he can do.
Well, my feeling was, as they started the second half, it looked like there was a bit more about them. But within 2 or 3 minutes, they'd gone back into the old habit of, overhitting passes and not controlling the ball properly. And it was just like we'd gone back to the way we were playing in the first half. And if it was me, I'm no manager, coach or whatever, I'd have taken a couple of players off within 5 minutes of the start of the second half and just say, and we need to change this. We're still winning, but we need to get some energy and get some players who actually want it more, who want to prove themselves more, because that was our first team. And pretty much those guys know they're the first team. And they know when the big matches come around, they're the ones that get picked.
Well, even if you look at it this way, Raheem Sterling wasn't having a brilliant game. Obviously they were a bank of 5 and a bank of 4, weren't they, with Rondon up front. So if Sterling's not making stuff happen, you've got a £60 million Riyad Mahrez on the bench. He might not make a difference, but he'll give them something different to think about.
That's it. And like Bernardo, bring people on who I feel have got something to prove. People who want to get into that first team and be the one of the first 11 names on the team sheet. And someone like Bernardo or Mahrez, whether they succeed or not, they want to be first on that team sheet. Bernardo knows right now if he's not going to get ahead of KDB, and he's fighting with David Silva to start. So I think he'd have given us a little bit more when the team was sagging, and it was, for me, it was crying out it was crying out for Vincent Kompany. It was crying out for a leader, someone on the pitch to go around and kick some backsides high in the air. And we really didn't have that last night.
Well, yeah, I said that last night. I mean, how many times this season have we seen one shot on target, one goal? And you know what? Aymeric Laporte and John Stones are going to be the partnership for the future.
Yeah.
That's it. But on the ground defensive work yesterday, they were good. But in the air, Rondon caused us lots of problems. I mean, I think last season we started with Nicholas Otamendi. And Nicholas Otamendi combated their aerial threat quite well. He cleared a brilliant ball off the line as well.
Yeah.
And maybe like you said with Vincent Kompany, maybe last night Nicholas Otamendi with his better, I think Pep talked about it in his press conference why he started Otamendi and Fernandinho against Burnley to deal with set pieces and balls in the air.
Yeah.
Maybe Nicholas Otamendi was a better option last night, but who do I know? I don't know better than Pep. So
I'll give you some quick fire questions and give me some short one-word answers if you want, or slightly longer, to try and, because people are there. Why didn't we perform? So this is what they're asking. So, too many games. We played a lot of games in a very short space of time, basically since December. Yeah,
but if we want to be this massive club and we've got to compete on all four fronts, we don't want to. There's two ways of doing it. You've got Manuel Pellegrini's way of fielding an Academy 11 against Chelsea away and going out and focusing on what would you say a more important shot. But if we come in February and beat Chelsea, everyone will be celebrating a Carabao Cup trophy. There's nothing wrong with that. We've not won the FA Cup since 2011.
Yeah.
Now. If we're a big club, we want to be winning that more often. I don't get that, mate. I understand physically it's tough for the players, and we have got too many games in too short space of time. Maybe the next year, of course, they've got the winter break. Maybe that might sort it a bit.
Yeah.
But I just don't understand that. I want to win everything.
Yeah.
I want to win everything. And I know I'm young and I'm quite lucky that I've been born into a generation where we've been amazing, and what I count as my prime years of football has been absolutely incredible. But for fans who are much older than me, surely they would have took a Carabao Cup 10 years ago, as a trophy. They would have snapped your hand off for it.
Yeah.
So why now? I know we're a big club and our priorities have got to be Premier League and Champions League. But if we've got a massive squad, we have got a massive squad, and now we've virtually got everyone back. I don't see why not. We can.
Well, I mean, personally speaking, when we go to Wembley for the final against Chelsea, if we win, we'll be partying that night.
Exactly.
I mean,
exactly. No one will be complaining.
I mean, when you've been through the lean years, I was lucky enough to be born as we won our title in the 60s, but I don't remember. The first 8 years of my life was when we won pretty much everything, and I only remember vaguely the '76 League Cup final. So for a long time, I don't know what success is in terms of winning major trophies. So the Carabao Cup, any trophy, is still a success, and it's a big success for me. Maybe, like you say, some of the younger fans, they're not that worried about it. But any trophy is a trophy for me. Manchester Senior FA Cup or whatever. I want to win anything for City.
Yeah. What a wonderful day out at Wembley it was last year. I mean, Sergio Aguero, David Silva, Vincent Kompany. You couldn't have picked a more perfect three goal scorers.
Yeah.
And we won a cup. It was a brilliant day. I don't see what else you can want other than trophies.
Yeah,
trophies.
That's it.
Would you rather go with a mentality that that Pochettino has, that finishing in the top four is good enough, and not winning a trophy is okay? You'd rather win a trophy. You really would. Yeah. And especially if we're not going to go on and win this Premier League. If Liverpool go on and win this Premier League, no doubt about it, they deserve it because they have been magnificent. So if you win a League Cup and an FA Cup and do well in the Champions League, I count that as another pretty decent season.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, and as they say, there's no footballers when they're retired, turn around to the grandkids and say, hey, we made the Champions League, we made the top four, 5 years on the bounce.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not. They're going to be embarrassed to say that. What they want to say is like Portsmouth players have said. Was it Birmingham with the League Cup? Wigan when they beat us. Those teams, okay, they've suffered subsequently and dropped 1, 2, even 3 tiers down the league in Portsmouth's case. But their fans can still turn around and say, we won something. We won something in recent memory. In living memory, we won something. You look at someone like Newcastle. What have they won in their fans' recent past?
Dying for a cup. Absolutely dying.
You go back. You have to go back a long way. Even Spurs, They haven't won anything for over 10 years. Liverpool, have hardly won anything of any consequence. So you've got to take whatever comes up. And when you talk, I'll go back to when you mentioned the winter break. That actually leads on to my next quick question. Not enough rest physically and mentally. Are the players suffering from that?
Yeah, you can definitely see that in some of the players, but we should have a big enough squad to combat that at the end of the day. We've got players who should be able to slot in. I mean, you've paid £60 million for Riyad Mahrez. He should do the same job. I understand that maybe he needs a bit of time to settle into the way Pep wants, but he's an equally capable enough player we've seen in previous years in the Premier League to fill in for Sterling or Sane. Yeah. You've got Gundogan, you've now got De Bruyne back, which means Bernardo or David Silva or whoever's on the bench is going to be biting at the bit to come on and wanting to prove themselves. I understand that there is going to be a bit of, we're not professional footballers. We don't know what it's like to play in every 3 days. And it obviously must take a bit out of the players. But if you're a player, I think the hunger of winning stuff would take over for me. But,
we, like you said, we have got, it's undeniable. You can't question the fact that we've got the best squad in the league.
Absolutely.
And, we should be utilising that through these games. But we turn around and say, but last night it wasn't a squad, it was the best 11 we could muster. So that was disappointing.
Who are 3 top players miss out every week? Last night it was Delphin Zinchenko. When Benjamin Mendy comes back, another one's going to miss out. 3 top players miss out on the squad every week. And they must be busting a gut in training to get back in Pep's plans and to be playing again.
Yeah. Next quick one. Do you think they're not handle the pressure? Because last season, they had no pressure. The season before, we were in and out, and the only pressure was to actually secure top 4. This season, they've been under the gun right from the start of the season, with Liverpool being up there, first or second, all the way through the season. Are the players not handling that pressure?
What I think the most frustrating thing is they can. That Liverpool game was one of the biggest games Manchester City have had for a long, long time. And you know what? I thought it took a lot of character when they went to 1-1 to go on and score that winner and hold on to the 3 points. In terms of in the game, we don't. I mean, it was highlighted a lot last season that when we concede a goal, we crumble. I mean, it's now Newcastle, Leicester, and Crystal Palace where we've gone 1-0 up and we've conceded, and then we've conceded a goal pretty much straight away afterwards to make it 2-1, and the defence just crumbles. It's because we've not conceded a goal. Was it 5 hours we've not conceded a goal until last night? And you're thinking, right, the defence is back up to shape. We conceded a goal. And what was we trying to do with that second goal? Build pressure on us in that back right-hand corner. I understand you want to stick to your principles, but squaring the ball across your box, that's rule 1 of defending. Don't pass the ball across the box.
But we're City. That's what we do. We pass it anywhere without worry. But, that's actually one of my other questions was, why is it that, like against Leicester, against Crystal Palace, and against Newcastle, we score a goal, we look so comfortable, unbelievably comfortable. And it's just, you feel it's just a matter of score a second, we'll get 3 or 4, and that's said without any arrogance, because that's what's been happening so often. And then we concede a goal, we start to wobble, and we lose all our composure, our calmness, and we just start becoming even more sloppy than they were before. And is it, and a lot of people are talking about it, complacency, because Newcastle are not a great team. Let's be quite honest. They went out there 5-1. They were there to defend, and we weren't clinical enough. We weren't ruthless enough. We didn't really try to blitz them in that first half, and it was like I felt players were thinking, we always score goals, and they're relying on some individual brilliance or a fantastic 5 minutes to score a couple of goals, and then the game's put to bed. And players weren't taking that accountability. They weren't taking that responsibility themselves, and they're just, hey, we're going to score at some point. So what's going wrong? Because 3 times in the last 6 weeks or so is 3 times too much.
Yeah, it is. It is disappointing, and to me, I always used to say against these sort of teams that are going to defend, an early goal is vital, and you can't get any earlier than what we got last night. But it's not even that nowadays. I mean, teams know that if we concede, they still can get at us defensively. So the games where I felt we've been more comfortable is when we've added to an early lead straight away. We've not took the foot off the gas. We've gone at them and at them because they're forced to come out at the end of the day. They've got to, I know some teams don't and some teams sit in and try and mitigate it. But teams in the Premier League who need points, like Newcastle were scrapping for points, like Palace were scrapping for points at the time, like Leicester was scrapping for points, are going to do anything. So adding to an early lead is so vital nowadays in the Premier League. You can't rest on a 1-0. And even at 2-0, you've got to go and add goals to that.
Yeah.
But the last couple of games, you're right. Our heads just go as soon as we can see the goal, and it's so disappointing because we have got top quality defenders and we've got a top quality goalkeeper. See, it's disappointing.
What I don't understand is we are so good in the attacking third. We're so good that I don't understand why we don't really go for teams. And think, well, I mean, how many shots on target did Newcastle have last night? 2 or 3? That's it?
Yeah.
Can't be that much. And it took, 60-odd minutes before they got a goal? Or that was the first shot on target, I think, Rondon's.
Yeah, first shot on target.
Well, that's it. So, why can't we really try and blitz teams to get that lead in the first half? I don't see why we score a goal and then we just rest on our laurels. We've done it before and take it easy.
Yeah, but the question is, did you feel like, apart from the goal, or apart from the disallowed goal, did we create many opportunities last night?
There was a great one for, I think Sane put a ball in into the
Sterling in the second half.
Sterling missed that one. And a couple of others, I think we hit at the keeper. David Silva had a decent shot, but he was straight at the keeper, just parried it out. But we created some decent opportunities, but not goal-scoring opportunities. So we sometimes got players behind them. But my feeling from the game was, whilst watching it, was frustration as it was going on, disappointment, and inevitability. Because before they scored their second goal, I mean, my son watched the first half of the game with me before I sent him to bed, and he asked me this morning what the score was, and he couldn't believe it. He actually couldn't believe that City had lost that game because we were in control. But as I said, as the second half went along, it felt inevitable that they were going to score, and I was just hoping in the last 20 minutes. We had 20 minutes to score an equaliser and maybe look for a winner. And to be honest, I didn't see our players busting a gut. I didn't see them really going for it. And when we had probably less than half a minute to go in added time, we were just passing the ball around the defenders. And I really didn't get, if I had any hair left, I'd be pulling it out because it was so frustrating to watch that.
Yeah, even if we nick a draw, it's a point, and if Liverpool win tonight, it's 6 points. But it's just them little fees. I don't know. He's the way Pep wants to stick to his system, I guess. And
for me, that a draw would have been something, because 6 points is still, they lose 2 games, we can catch them on goal difference. 7 points, they've got to lose 2 and draw 1 or something. So they've got to have 3, let's say, reverses, 3 non-wins before it's to have a chance.
And you've not seen any of that so far from them, have you?
Yeah, they've drawn a few games and lost just the one. So, it's going to be, I think that obviously goes on to the next question. What are our chances of winning the league? I mean, there's some people are very despondent right now. Other end of the spectrum, you've got people saying, no, we've come from further behind in terms of points with fewer games to go to still win the league. But my feeling is, when we've done that, we've relied on other teams falling down. Now, and it wasn't in our hands. Once again, it's not in our hands. How do you see the rest of the season panning out in terms of the league? Yeah,
it's a tricky one now. I mean, any other season, we're top of the league still. We're on course for 97 points now. I think 97 points.
90 odd, and 90 odd wins you the league every time.
Exactly, and the difference is, as I said before, Liverpool haven't dropped points against lower 6 sides. And they've not looked like, maybe Palace the other week was a bit of it, but they've come through that, just like we came through Southampton last season, just like we came through West Ham, Huddersfield, all them.
Yeah.
They're picking up results that are even bigger than the results they're picking up against the top 6 sides, because they're the games where you're off the boil a bit, but it just takes a moment of quality to get the goal. A mistake, that's Baroni throwing at his own goal.
Yeah.
To get back into the game, and you're right, we have come back from worse positions so far, but this season just feels like Liverpool have got this little air of invincibility about them that I just can't see. We can't play them now. We've not got a fixture against them. They've got Manchester United who are on a bit of form, so they could take points off them. But it's not just 7 points; it's more than 7 points because we can't drop any points if it was to be 7 points. It means we'd have to win. And we've got Arsenal at home, we've got Everton away and Chelsea at home. We do very well to come out with maximum points through that.
We've got no choice. We have to.
We have to if we want to win the league. But out of these 4 fixtures, including the Newcastle, your Newcastle results your banker. And if you can't win that, let alone lose it.
Exactly. I mean, I think one of the final points, I'm just thinking about the Champions League now. And I look back at our campaign in the group stages, and I've done a few videos, bits and pieces about this before. If you take the Shakhtar results out, because Shakhtar were, for us anyway, the whipping boys, 6-0 and 3-0, I think, and you look at the other games, the other 4 games, we struggled. We got beat at home by Lyon. We should have, I think, lost at Lyon down in at their place. Yeah. Hoffenheim, both games took an early lead and caused us a lot of trouble. And I think the first game, we got a late goal from David Silva with about 5 or 6 minutes to go to prevail. And on paper, you look at City comfortably qualified, and you can argue, yes, we did quite comfortably qualify in the end. But it worries me that those 4 performances against the 2 against Hoffenheim and the 2 against Lyon added to the performances. I mean, and they're not top teams. And add them to the performances against Leicester, Crystal Palace, and Newcastle. Personally, I think that's that's too many bad performances. And I don't know. I'm not worried about Schalke because I expect to beat them, but I expect it to do better against Newcastle. But that is my only fear at the back of my mind. If it was a tougher team, a top team, if it was Real Madrid or Barcelona, I'd actually feel a lot more confident than playing what you'd consider the easiest team that's left in the Champions League.
Yeah, I know what you mean, and I think we're a victim of our own luck in that Champions League group because when you see it on the face of it, regardless of how Lyon were doing in the league, Lyon, Hoffenheim, and Shakhtar, brilliant. We should easily finish top of this group, and Lyon are a top team. Let's get it right. We should beat them, but they're still a top team. And I just don't feel we were up for that. I feel like we expended all our efforts in the league and in the other cups because we just thought we'd walk it.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that Pep now looks at the league and, of course, last night he's come out and said, it's not over, it's not over. But I'm hoping, because that is what he's been brought in for. He's brought in to win the Champions League. So I'm hoping that he's going to look at it now and expend all his energy in that. We should get through Schalke. Then see we get in the quarterfinals. But as you said, I agree with you. We tend to turn up for the big games. We do. So if we do get a Barcelona in the next round, a Bayern Munich or whoever gets through, I'd be more confident in them games than I am against the smaller teams at the moment. Last season, you'd go to Brighton at home, anyone, any of the bottom teams at home, and you think, how many goals are we going to score today?
Yeah.
We won't think if we're going to draw or drop points. It's how many. But he's creeping. He's going into the games thinking, I'd take a 2-0, I'd take a 1-0. When we should be really whipping these teams, the squad we've got. The Champions League has got to be the main focus now if he's going to give up on the league.
I don't think he's going to give up. You can't give up on the league. There's no way you can give up because, the fat lady hasn't sung yet. And 7 points, 13 games, if we give up on the league and Liverpool lose a couple of games, we'll be kicking ourselves. Yeah. We'll absolutely be kicking ourselves for not continuing the challenge. And I can't believe Pep will give up on the league. He's got to keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. And we still got 2 domestic cups to fight on. We're in a great position in the FA Cup. You got Borough or Newport, and Chelsea and United have got each other. So that's another one of the big teams that are going out. So whoever wins that game, it's theirs and ours to lose now. This FA Cup.
Yeah. I mean, I think to finish on a positive note, we just got to stand back and like you say, look where we are. We're in the final of the Carabao Cup. Okay, we're in the 5th round. With what looks on paper a relatively straightforward tie either against Middlesbrough or Newport. So you'd hope we'd get through. We got Schalke in the Champions League, and you'd hope we'd get through to the quarterfinals. And then in the league, okay, you're second. Now let's be honest. You go back almost any other year in our history apart from last year, and you take that all day long. We shouldn't be crying and being so negative about some of the fans. You're disappointed, obviously, what's happened, but we shouldn't, start, calling the Samaritans or anything like that.
If we threw away the cups like we have done in previous seasons to